And welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we are live from Studio Vanguard and we are linked in with the following repeaters. Who's got the repeaters?
I've got the list. Here we go. So tonight we're linked in on Flagship, McDonough, Lula, Jersey, Noonan, Watkinsville, Buckhead, Rome, Peachtree, Columbus, Dallas, Zebulon, Ocala, Toccoa, Mount Roosevelt, Lookout Mountain, Fort Mountain, our Zello link, Chattanooga, Cades Cove, White Oak Mountain, Ottawa, and Georgetown.
Holy cow, that's a lot. Tonight, our RF coverage encompasses approximately 41,000 square miles. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. I would like to thank everyone who has made the North Georgia GMRS the most expansive and active GMRS network in the country. Your net control tonight is WQYR 514 Atlanta 947. My name is Julie.
In Atlanta 946, WQYR 514. My name is Justin.
And this is WSAL 368 Atlanta 263. My name is Rogers.
And this is WRUB 711 Atlanta 519. My name is Gary. And standing behind me at the door is...
This is WRWM 344 Blue Ridge 63. My name is Mike.
On the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we would like to hear. This is a family-based network, so we encourage you to get your family involved. Guest check-ins are welcome from anyone with a valid FCC call sign. Once the floor is open, it's permissible to address other members of the net by their name or tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and sign out of the net. Also, you can tune into our YouTube channel and follow along. Or even better, tune in after the net to watch your appearance on the network and hear how you sound to us right here in Studio Vanguard. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment so we know you were watching. These interactions mean the most to help our channel grow. So tonight's topic, we're going to talk about tones.
Tones.
That's right.
Yeah. Dana had a particular tone, but we'll discuss that off the air. In any case, DCS, CTCSS tones, and PL tones. What's a PL tone?
Private line.
Yeah. So that's a like a Motorola branded, copyrighted, registered, trademark system of radio toning, and it was marketed as private line, but there's no privacy in two-way radio.
No.
Forget about it.
That's right.
Not a thing.
That's right. So do we want to go ahead and go on to announcements? Do we have announcements?
We do have announcements.
All right.
I think Free Salad's going to do announcements. You want to do that from right here? I will.
You even got the script up for me. Half the time you can't find your own script.
I know.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is Blue Ridge 63, WRWM 344. Mike with this week's news and announcements and goings-on around the network, live from Studio Vanguard. I've got some upcoming gatherings to tell you about this week that are right around the corner. You should pay attention, write these down. These are a great way to meet other fellow radio members in your area. Our Northeast bunch will be having their lunch meetup on Wednesday, April 30th at 11 a.m. They'll meet at the usual place, which is Rooster's Cafe in Dahlonega. Current, former, and future members are all welcome to attend. If you have questions or for more information, contact Atlanta 403-BOBBY or Atlanta 256.1 Holly. Next up, the Kennesaw Gathering will meet for lunch on Tuesday, May the 13th at noon at the Old Town Tavern and Grill. That's 2500 Cobb Parkway Northwest, right around from the McCollum Airport. Join us ever for another Meet and Geek, where you can bring your radio to discuss programming issues and get help with tones. We'll talk about that tonight. The group plans to have a mobile test bench set up where they can test and program many of the popular radios over the lunch gathering. If you have questions and to RSVP, reach out to our friend Atlanta557Ed on the air or through email at wrqg806@gmail.com. If you're planning to attend, so he knows how many seats to reserve, and let him know about the radio that you're using if you're going to need some help, so that he can make sure he has the right software and cables available. That's a really cool thing they do, that Meet and Geek. The next West Side Luncheon will be May 10th at Taco Mac in Marietta at 11 a.m. The address for that one is 2650 Dallas Highway, Suite 110 in Marietta. Please send an email with your RSVP to rabbithole@nggmrs.org. Our friends David and Lisa look forward to seeing you, sharing some food and fellowship at the West Side Luncheon. Let me break. All right, we'll do a quick rundown of our weekly programming in the way of nets. So for any guests or new members listening in, I'll give you an idea of what to expect each week. This Sunday, April 27th, will be the date for the next Rabbit Hole Net. They do early check-ins at 7 p.m., and the net begins at 7:30. The topic this week is a variety of different ways to preserve your own food. I'm sure Miss Lisa will be talking about canning and all of her other secrets.
Freeze-drying.
Freeze-drying, there you go.
Yeah.
Dehydrating.
That's right.
It's a good one. You'll want to tune in for that. The general topics for the Rabbit Hole Net, if you're new around here, are preparedness. And so look for that this Sunday. I've also got a note here that the Rabbit Hole is now live streaming. That's pretty cool. Don't forget, if you're watching the Rabbit Hole live stream, to like and subscribe on their channel. Feel free to jump in with comments, questions, or feedback in the chat box. The Ladies Roundtable Net is the first Monday of every month. This next one's going to be Monday, May 5th, and it starts at 8 p.m. The plan is to give everyone time to finish up dinner and settle in for a ladies' radio chat. At 8 p.m., Jennifer, your host, Atlanta 255, will announce that the Ladies Roundtable has started, and at that time, just like any other net, you can check in. No worries if you don't show up at 8 o'clock sharp. Listen in, and as the conversation goes, there will be breaks. And when you hear an opportune break in the conversation, just key up your radio and say the word comment. Jennifer will ask for your name, your FCC call, and your TAC number. And then she'll tell you who to pass it to as it goes around the table after your comment. There's no set topic for the upcoming roundtable. Just whatever the ladies want to talk about. Tuesdays on the northern region of our network feature the Skywarn Net. This is a training net for Skywarn weather spotters in coordination with the National Weather Service and is only available on the Chattanooga area region of our network. Wednesdays feature a short ERC net at 8 p.m. This is a roll call net and is closed to North Georgia members. This is for ERC members only. So unless you are an ERC member, please refrain from checking into this net on Wednesdays. And then there's the regional Thursday night, this net, the one you're listening to or watching on YouTube right now. We start with early check-ins at 7 p.m., and as you can tell by the time, the program kicks off officially at 7:30. This net covers a variety of topics, and the script says those knuckleheads will talk about anything.
Well, this is true.
This is pretty true, isn't
Yeah.
it? Pretty true. We do talk about anything. We try to keep it lively. We encourage all of our members and future members to participate by checking in on your GMRS radio on Zello or through our YouTube live stream. If you're not able to check in, the net is live streamed to the North Georgia GMRS YouTube channel. If you are a guest and you don't have a TAC call number yet, we welcome, we invite, we encourage you to check into the Thursday Night Net to test your radio and your reception to the closest repeater nearest you. I get a lot of questions about that in the YouTube comments, and just want to say it. Please do use the net as an opportunity to try to check in. We'd love to hear from you. Let me break. Rounding out the week, we've got some fun activities every Friday night. The Friday Night at 9 Simplex Challenge starts at 8 o'clock every Friday evening. The group meets up on our Monument repeater, which is not linked in with the rest of the network, and then they break out to separate GMRS Simplex frequencies. Your hosts, Dana, Atlanta 250, and Jonathan, Gainesville 58, will guide you in a directed net to find out who your Simplex neighbors are. That is, who you can reach without the use of a repeater. For the amateur radio license folks, before the GMRS Simplex Challenge is the Friday Night at 9 2-meter Simplex Challenge on the N4KHQ repeater starting at 7:30 p.m. I think we've gone over this before, but the Friday Night at 9 2-meter that starts at 7:30. This net is for amateur licensed folks only. Your hosts, Jonathan Gainesville 58 and Mark Rome 12, will also guide you in a directed net.
Is Dana part of that hosting crew now that he's got his creds?
You know, that's a good question. Now that he's got his ticket, Dana should be... Well, I don't know. We'll ask him when we come around and ask about that tone later.
Yeah,
Love that.
We'll find out. They hope to hear you on the air. That's Friday at 7:30 for the 2-meter amateur side and Friday at 8 for the GMRS net. Well, I should probably update my script, but quick reminder, and if you saw the email, we are a confirmed go for the the fourth annual North Georgia GMRS Cookout and Picnic, hosted by our good friends, the Smith family. That's Trey, Gainesville 287, Lynn, Gainesville 286, and Charlie Victor, Gainesville 285. That is this coming Saturday, April 26th. Parking will open at 11 a.m. Please do not show up prior to 11 a.m. Parking will not be open. And the plan is to eat at noon. It's going to be a family picnic style with burgers and dogs and all the fixings. And while we're there, we plan to do some fun educational things about the network, give you a history of North Georgia GMRS, hopefully some tours of the repeater site, and maybe a few more things that they come up with. Based on previous years, we imagine it'll be 200 to 300 people in attendance, and so if you haven't had a chance already, you haven't heard me babble about this for the last few weeks, please at this point, send your RSVP for this weekend to nggmrsevents@gmail.com and confirm in that for the hosts your name, your tactical unit number, your FCC call sign, and the number of people in your party. Not just the number of people, but the individual names of the people in your party, because I hear there's going to be special customized name tags for everybody.
Now, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you RSVP yet?
Funny you should ask. I did that this morning.
Oh, this morning.
This morning, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm teasing the membership, but I'm also putting my foot in my own mouth a little bit there. I was a little late on that.
Well, better late than never.
Thanks, CV.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, that's this Saturday. The email to RSVP is nggmrsevents@gmail.com. Let me break. I've got a note here to give a reminder for those that are attending about seating. If you don't bring a lawn chair, you won't have a place to sit. That's what it says. If you don't bring your own chair, you won't have a place to sit. Also at the picnic, we will see our friends at Hobbit Communications. They'll be there with a selection of the finest commercial radios for GMRS use on our network. You can order now and select the store pickup option and pick up your new radio or equipment at the picnic at Flagship this Saturday. Either way saves on shipping. If you have one of the Hobbit Kenwood radios already, bring it with you, because the Hobbit himself will be doing code plug updates to your radios free of charge to include the latest batch of repeaters. I don't know how many that is, but it's at least Buckhead and a couple others that have gone on the air recently.
Peachtree decal.
Peachtree, that's the other one. Good call. Monument.
Monument
For
may
some
or may not
folks.
be part of that,
Yeah.
for some folks. So, yeah.
So Gary wants to make sure you've got all the latest and greatest in your radio. Bring it and get it updated free of charge. Again, the cost is $0. The next Chattanooga lunch will be, this is exciting, I saw this on Facebook, will be on the very beautiful land of Jim, Chattanooga 110, at their farm. Jim and his family have invited our group out to have lunch at their property again this year. It's a beautiful place to gather, eat, and meet each other. They are asking as well that you RSVP if you'd like to go. The date will be Saturday, May 17th. And if it happens to rain that weekend, they also have a rain delay backup of Saturday the following week, May the 24th. They say you can arrive around 10 a.m. to do any hiking or fishing that you like before. And make sure to bring your HT and try your luck on Simplex.
I want to know if they have a petting farm.
A
kind of
petting
thing.
farm?
Yeah, like with goats and cows and
It's a good question.
bunnies.
Bunnies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ducks.
You can pet the fish.
We'll see if we can get a hold of Chattanooga 110 and clarify if there's a
We
petting.
need to clarify that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good point.
absolutely.
Just like any other, this is for North Georgia GMRS members as well as amateur operators as well. It will only be, the location is only going to be provided for people who RSVP and reserve their spots. So please do that by sending an email to KO4, that's K, the letter O, 4, MPK at gmail.com, and let Jim know you're coming and how many in your party will be with you so that they can get you on the list. That's awesome. Next up, the 2025 AJC Peachtree Road Race is the morning of July 4th, and they're in need of some GMRS radio operators to help coordinate at the finishing area in Piedmont Park. If you're planning to be in town for the 4th of July holiday and you'd like to volunteer, please contact Atlanta 26-FLIP for further instructions on how to get involved. You can send an email to Justin at nggmrs.com, and he'll forward it on to Flip. Let me break.
I think it's .org.
You're right, it is.
Yeah.
I misspoke. That email address to reach Flip is justin at nggmrs.org,
There you go.
not .com.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
That's it. That's the end of the list. I say that's it. That's a lot. There's a lot going on.
Yes.
Luncheons, the picnic.
This is a happening group.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a great time of year again. Everybody's trying to get outside, and
That's right.
there's a lot of good stuff happening around the network. All right, Julie, back to you.
Well, thank you for all that, Mike. All right. So for those of you who are just tuning in, and for everyone who is new and don't know who I am, this is WQIR 514 Atlanta 947. My name's Julie, and I have this week's new user tips and operating procedure segment. So as we discussed earlier this week, we're going to talk about PL, CTCSS, and DCS tones. Something a lot of new users struggle with is understanding how tones work. PL tones is a generic phrase that encompasses CTCSS, DCS, and other tone squelch systems. When you hear people mention PL tones, they could be talking about any of these tone squelch protocols. They have different names and they may work in slightly different ways, but they all serve to filter out unwanted traffic from your radio. The joke is that PL stands for private line, but of course there is no privacy in two-way radio. By including a sub-audible tone with your transmission, you can tell another radio to open its receive audio. Both radios need to have the same tone programmed, and when they do, you will hear only the radio traffic that includes that sub-audible tone. Repeaters work the same way. The repeater will ignore everything it hears on its tuned frequency until it hears that sub-audible PL tone. When it hears that PL tone, it will engage its transmitter and repeat what it hears. When it transmits its received message, it typically includes the same sub-audible tone. Users with the correct tones programmed will hear only messages that include the programmed sub-audible tone, and they will access the repeater when they transmit with a sub-audible PL tone. Let me break. Sub-audible tones are basically tones that we don't hear, which makes them sub-audible. The radio receiver uses the tone, then filters it out before playing it on the speaker so we don't hear the underlying tone. DCS tones are digital in nature and would sound unpleasant if we could hear it. We prefer CTCSS tones, which stands for Continuous Tone Coded Squelch System. But in some cases, when we experience frequent interference from non-members, we found that interference is often eliminated with DCS tones. DCS stands for Digital Coded Squelch. Rather than try other CTCSS tones, we find we get interference. I'm sorry. I just messed that up. So basically what I'm saying is rather than try other CTCSS tones and find we get interference again, we prefer to go straight to the DCS tones to minimize the trouble the membership has in reprogramming radios. If we have to change a tone, we'd like to change it only once. There's a lot to unpack here, so if you have any questions, tonight's net will be a great place to ask. By understanding how the tones work, it might help us understand how the programming works in our radios. So these are just a few of the preferred practices of North Georgia GMRS members, and these procedures are how we become the best operators on the nation's largest, most advanced linked repeater network. And remember, if you have any questions or suggestions for new user tips and operating procedures, send me a note at julie@ngmrs.org. We are North Georgia GMRS Network, and this is Atlanta 947 WQIR 514. My name is Julie. And am I giving it to you to take check-ins, or are you wanting me to go ahead?
Why don't you go ahead and open it up for some Zello check-ins?
Okay, you heard the man. He said we're going to go ahead and open it up to Zello check-ins. Zello check-ins only at this time. Please call net control now.
We're going to get some of that tonight. Is that what that? Yeah. So we're going to get some of that tonight.
Okay.
And, you know, if folks want to play, you might have to pay.
Yeah?
Yeah, the posse is out.
I love it.
Yeah,
Let's get them.
I think so.
All right. So, are you finished with me?
Yeah,
Can
tell
you,
everybody on YouTube good night. And,
all right. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you, Julie.
See ya. Good night.
All right. Any Zello check-ins? Anyone wishing to use the Zello app to check into the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net? Please try now.
Not me.
This takes so long.
I'm in over here.
Are you faster at it? I had to log back in again.
I don't know why it's kept me logged in, but we go ahead. 754. Just keeping our own little one.
All right. Sorry about that, Zello users. Please try now.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah.
I might be a little... Yeah, I'm clipping a bit, Gary.
You are. Yep.
Sorry about that. That looks better.
That was a Julie level.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, not hearing anyone checking in with Zello. Let's continue on with any repeater other than flagship. And as we do this, let's kind of slow the roll a little bit. And any Zello users that are trying to get in, if you are able to grab the repeater in between RF check-ins, don't unkey. Just keep on with your check-in and try to get the whole thing in one go. Sometimes Zello can be challenging when you drop the key and try to pick it up again. It occasionally will put you in a timeout box. So to avoid that, once you access the repeater, stay on it and finish your check-in. Other users, please follow the protocol. And if you hear someone say this is, wait until they finish their check-in before you come on the air with yours. Net control standing by.
WRKK629, 784, checking in now.
This is Atlanta 350, Whiskey Sierra Hotel Golf 331, checking in and out. Cheers.
WROB 245, Atlanta 849, Pamela in Duluth, in and out, and by relay, Atlanta 848, Ernest in Duluth, in and out. Have a great night listening.
This is WRQB 762, Gainesville 44, Joe in Cleveland, checking in and out.
He sounds better every week.
He does. He really does. All right, YouTube folks, I see a bunch of check-ins in there. Give me just a few minutes to get caught up. I promise I'll get you all there.
This is WSFX 464, Atlanta 90, Shane checking in and out. This is Whiskey Sierra Golf Kilo 999, ATL 183, checking in, checking out.
We used to have an ATL
This
999 tech number. That would have been a cool one.
This is Atlanta 229, WSHN 798, Todd in Loganville, checking in, checking out. This is WQWN 338, Chattanooga 104, Chris in Cleveland, Tennessee, checking in and out.
All right, the race is on. I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge the check-ins that we have. Will Free Salad over here furiously inputs as many YouTube check-ins as he can.
I'm getting there.
And we'll see if he can finish the YouTube check-ins before I get to that part of the roster. So we're going to start off here with Chattanooga 84. Jim in Hickson is in tonight. And the rest of these are in and out. We have Atlanta 350 Ted in Tucker, Atlanta 849 Pamela in Duluth, Atlanta 848 Ernest in Duluth, Gainesville 44 Joe in Cleveland, Atlanta 90 Shane in Atlanta, Atlanta 183 John in Canton, Atlanta 229 Todd in Loganville, and a guest check-in from WRYQ727 Miko in upstate New York. Also WQAI 363 Adam in central Bucks County, Pennsylvania. We heard from Chattanooga 104 Chris in Cleveland is in and out, and some additional YouTube check-ins. The race is truly on. Dallas 592 Michael in Dallas, Atlanta 927 Connie in Buford, Atlanta 557 Ed in Kennesaw, Columbus 25 Peter in West Point, WRVY 564 Gary in Dixie County, Florida, WRWY 456 Dave is in Missouri.
He is. I just couldn't.
Yeah,
I skipped that part.
I get it. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us again this week, Dave. Atlanta 1126 Joseph in Snellville, Atlanta 379 Scott in Sandy Creek, and WSFB 816. That's all we got? Just guessed?
Yeah, I didn't get a name. I'll go back and try to get it, though.
Okay. Well, we've got you in the log. Mike will update that as he's able to. He's fast scanning everything he sees in the live stream chat at the moment. So he'll go back and clean that up as the opportunity arises. We have Atlanta 830 Arthur in Dawsonville. I think that's Art.
Art. I believe you're right.
I think that, yeah. So Art, we've got you in the log. Thanks for checking in on YouTube. We got Rome12 Mark in Rome on YouTube, and Atlanta 261 Scott in Holly Springs. Doesn't want to talk to me, so he's just going to live chat the YouTube chat there so that he doesn't have to come on the air. Got you in there, Scott. Atlanta 374 Lamar in Dawsonville, also a YouTube check-in. And with that, we're going to go ahead and declare that we're caught up and open up check-ins to any repeater anywhere, including the flagship machine. This is a point at which we usually get doubles and triples and quadruples and all kinds of weird radio noise. So be careful to slow the roll and just make sure that the airwaves are clear when you make your check-in. Sometimes the doubles are perfectly on top of each other and you just don't know. Do your best. Yeah, just do your best.
Do your best.
Yeah. All right, net control standing by. Check-ins from any repeater anywhere.
This is.
Right out of the room.
This is Gainesville 76, WRUH 751. John for chicken in and chicken out. I will be listening. Great day. This is WRJR 959, CW2 Steve in Arnoldville, checking in and checking out.
WSGM280, CW57, Appalachia Blues, checking in and out.
This is WSHF 269, Atlanta 317, David. North Sandy Springs, checking in, checking out.
BW 497, Chattanooga 139, checking in, checking out.
Is that what you heard? CW7? There was two. It was like he was talking to somebody.
I'm not sure.
This is WSFH 294, Gainesville 420, Nick in Oakwood. Check me in and check me out. Be monitoring.
335, Noonan 40. This is Orestes, checking in, checking out.
This is WQUV 439, Atlanta 780. Houston, at the time of Wellstar, checking in and checking out.
All right, let's go ahead and acknowledge this last round of check-ins. If you didn't get a chance to check in, we'll take another round of late check-ins just before we close the program. So stick around if you'd like to get in. There's still an opportunity to do that. But in this round of check-ins, we heard Gainesville 7-6 John in Gainesville is in and out. CW2 Stephen in Arnoldsville in and out. CW57 Operator Bruce in Stevens is in and out. Atlanta 317 David in Sandy Springs is in and out. And we think we heard. What's your confidence level?
Well, 50-50. I thought I heard two different TAC calls.
So we think we heard CW7 Neil in Winterville.
But then there was an a Chattanooga TAC call that operator shared as well that didn't come back with anything.
So we don't know for sure what we've got, but we've got something logged.
We've got a placeholder
that may or may not be correct. So if you are an individual that logged in at that time, what we have is WRKW654 CW7 Neil in Winterville. If that was you, then that's cool. If it wasn't you, then I don't know how to figure that out. But if you realize you didn't get checked in, then try to call us again. Gainesville 420 Nick in Oakwood is in and out. Noonan 40 Orestes in Palmetto is in and out. And we heard from Atlanta 780 Houston on Zello. Houston is currently at Wellstar. So offer up some prayers for Houston, and not sure what he's there for, but we hope that it's something routine. And if it's not routine, we hope it's minor. And if it's not minor, we hope that whatever it is, he is able to overcome it quickly. So best wishes, Houston, and we'll be praying for you. And from YouTube, we've got Chattanooga 248 Matt in Old Fort, Tennessee. We have Rome 27 Terry in Menlo. And we have Atlanta 192 Faith in Holly Springs. In Atlanta 1158 Nick in Jasper.
It's a good run.
Yeah, I'd say so. So we've got a great number of check-ins already. And like I say, if you didn't get checked in, then please stick around, and we'd love to hear your check-in when we take late check-ins after we get through the roster. A couple of things we want to go over. Back to the Smith family barbecue. We talked about bringing a lawn chair, because if you don't bring a chair, you won't have a place to sit.
Yes.
But there's two more things that I think are very important to bring. One of them would be sunscreen. It may be a cloudy and overcast day. It may not be. So the weather on the mountain is often very different than the weather everywhere else. So be prepared. I recommend that we have some sunscreen. Also, I recommend that you have some bug spray or some kind of a repellent, so that if you want to use the wipes, those are okay to use. Just whatever you have for an insect repellent. Oftentimes the bugs aren't real bad, but there are some gnats, little bitty gnats that get in your face.
Yeah.
Sometimes those are
Yep.
a bit of a problem. And with all the people and food, who knows what that's going to bring for insects. So just be prepared. Whether you apply the bug screen or the sunscreen, you can use your discretion when you're on site. But if you don't have it, it's hard to put on. Let me break. So please remember, when you're throwing your lawn chairs in the trunk of the car, to also check and be sure that you have some sunscreen, some bug spray. If you have a pop-up or a canopy of some sort, that might be a good idea. I don't think we're going to have any rain, but it might be great to have some shade from the sun. So that would be advisable. And then, bring your friends and family and neighbors. Just be sure that you RSVP so that we can have the right amount of food.
What was that email address that I RSVP'd to this morning?
I don't know. I have no idea. It's probably.
I thought I'd put you on the spot. That backfired, Mike.
Yeah, it's right here. It's NGGMRS events at gmail.com.
That's it.
So NGGMRS events at gmail.com. That's where you send your RSVP. So be sure and include the fact that you're coming, your full name, first name, last name, tax sign if you have it. If you don't have a tax sign, it's perfectly fine. And same thing for all of your guests. First name, last name, and tax sign if they have it, call sign, whatever. As much as you know and as much as you can include, we'd like to put that on the name tag so that when we're out mingling amongst our radio friends, we're a little bit more identifiable. And you can just look at someone's name tag and instead of, hey, what's your name? I know I've seen you around, but I can't remember. Oh yeah, you're Free Salad.
I thought you were going to call me Blue Ridge 64 again.
Well, you're not a lot of difference in height.
Oh, we digress.
All right. So topic tonight is what are we talking about?
Tones. How to use tones with your radio. What tones do, what they don't do. Sometimes I think that's just as important as what they don't do.
I was looking I was looking for a chart. All right,
Mm-hmm.
Something that would display maybe one place where you would have all of the CTCSS tones, and maybe even all of the DCS tones. I don't know how many there are. I know there are 50 CTCSS tones. There are officially 50. There are some radio systems that use unofficial tones, and some radio systems that do not include all of the 50 standard tones. But I know that there are 50 CTCSS tones. I don't know how many DCS tones there are. Do you have any idea?
I don't, but I feel like when I'm scrolling through the DCS tones list in my code plug that it feels longer than 50.
Yeah, and it's you can kind of double that because those tones can be inverted.
Yes.
Or sometimes that's labeled reverse.
Yes.
So exactly how that works, I don't know. But I found a really cool thing. Rode and Schwartz. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
They make like really expensive test instruments that I could never afford. But I have been to some of their classes and seminars. They are top notch. They have a YouTube discussion about CTCSS and DCS tones, and it is concise, accurate, informative. It's about a 10-minute YouTube video.
All right.
And I highly recommend it. We'll see if we can find a link and maybe put that up at some point during the program. But yeah, that was a really neat piece to see.
Rogers is over here. Now it's his turn to do the Furious Keys on the keyboard thing.
Yeah, what was the name of that again?
Rode and Schwartz?
Oh no, I was meaning the tone table.
Oh, well, that too.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was
Yeah.
Googling CTCSS tones, and that's when I found the Rode and Schwartz video. But I never did find a table that I wanted to use, so I figured I'd just leave that up to Rogers, and he's equally not finding a table that he wants to use. So we're in good company, I think. But in any case, if we can find something that we can display, we certainly will. But back to the conversation about CTCSS tones. There's I got a break. Yeah, I should probably do that. Yeah, 4 minutes might be a bit long.
Yeah, we're back.
Okay, so back to the discussion about CTCSS tones. That can be I think maybe one of the biggest hurdles to somebody who's brand new in GMRS radio. All right,
Yes.
It's one thing to break the radio out of the package. You put the battery in the radio, you turn it on, and you scan around the frequencies, the channels, and you hear some noise coming out of your radio, and it turns out to be these knuckleheads on Thursday nights.
Yes.
So how do you transmit back to them? Well, you have to have a tone programmed in your radio to be able to make that connection back into the network. So what happens when you transmit on your radio includes a subaudible tone. Subaudible means that we can't hear it. So it is an audible tone, but it's filtered out. Our radios have filters built into them that automatically blank out that tone, so it doesn't come through our speaker. We never hear that tone, but it is carried in the transmission, so that when we key up our radio and we talk, that radio sends not only our voice, but that tone in addition. So when the repeater hears traffic on the radio network, it will ignore that traffic unless that traffic includes the correct tone.
So it's kind of like a key.
Very much like a key that unlocks that door.
That opens that repeater.
And lets that repeater retransmit that signal.
Okay.
So that's what the function of the CTCSS tone is. And it's the same purpose, same function with the DCS tone. It's just a different method of including that tone in the message. So with that being understood, now how do you program your radio?
I go to Ed's Meet and Geek, and I give it to him, and he plugs it into his mobile test bench, and I eat some wings, and then it's programmed.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably a great way to do it. And I'll tell you, when I was brand new at this and didn't know anything, my buddy Nick suggested that I get the radio, that I get the license, et cetera, et cetera. So when the radio came in the mail, I handed it to Nick. I don't know what to do with this. Here, you make it do its magic and
Make it work.
And so Nick handed it back to me, and it was programmed with the repeaters at that time. I bet if I could find that radio, it'd be impressive how many repeaters it does not have.
Yeah.
But in any case, Nick programmed that radio with a code plug that he had developed for his radio. And so basically he just made a clone of his radio with my radio so that they both had the same programming. Because they both had the same programming, it was real easy for Nick to talk me through any questions that I had, because if I wanted to ask him about a function on my radio, it was the same as a function on his radio because it had the same code plug. So it was real easy for him to talk that through. Let me break. So if you go to the Meet and Geek and you have Ed program your radio, a lot of people are using that same program, and that entire group of people will be able to help you, talk you through whatever questions you might have related to that program.
Ed says in the comments he offers up that he will program for fries. I can appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
I can appreciate that, Ed. So what's it mean when I'm looking in my CPS, my programming software, and it says encode and decode? How do I know which one is which? For the tones.
There's a Gozinta and a Gozauta.
Oh, okay.
And you have to have the right one in the right place.
Yes.
So the terminology is going to be different in virtually every programming system that there is. Whether you're using a CPS for a Motorola, or you're using the KP programs for Kenwoods, whatever software package you're using, if it's Chirp, the terminology is unique and different amongst all of them. So it's really challenging to be able to have a conversation like that. What is encode decode?
Yeah.
What is the tone input? And what is the output? So we've got a chart on our web page that shows the way the various frequencies, the various channels or repeaters are programmed. Shows their frequency, their input frequency, their output frequency, and the tones. Now, typically we use the same tone in and out. So if we're using a tone into the repeater, that's the tone that your radio is going to transmit. Its encode tone. When it transmits, it's going to output that same tone that we have programmed for that repeater to activate the repeater. And then when a repeater retransmits that tone, it also recreates that same frequency and that same tone and puts that back into the output of that audio. So it will replace. It filters out the original tone and it replaces it with its own. And that we don't have any. You don't have any funky phase shifting with the tones and stuff like that. The transmitter, the repeater, will put a fresh tone on that signal, and it will be locked on for that repeater.
I think that's a good place. I wanted to cue that up because one of the things that I had to learn getting started was why you need a tone on the receive side of your radio. When you're programming it to use our network, for example, why do I need a tone on the receive?
Well, that's a great question. Let's break. So my answer to that question is you don't. Technically you don't need a tone.
Yeah.
If your receive is open and there's no tone on it, it's going to hear everything. Mm-hmm. And that's good, maybe to a point. But here's the problem. All right, if you don't have a tone on your receive, your radio will hear everything, and it will hear the kids in the neighborhood playing on their little FRS radios.
Yes.
It will hear the road construction crew. It will hear the doctor's office down the way.
Chick-fil-A.
It will hear Chick-fil-A. It will hear all these things that maybe you don't want to hear. So by putting the tone in your radio on the receive side, you can knock all that stuff out. Now the kids can still play in the neighborhood, and you may have a little green receive light come on your radio, but it won't play the audio unless the kids have figured out what your tones are.
There you go.
So that's maybe you want to hear that stuff, and I always thought that I did until I tried to engage in some conversations, and you get confused very easily when you're hearing stuff that's local on simplex, but you think it's coming through the repeater, and you try to answer them, and then Houston comes back and says, Justin, I don't think they're on the network. I think they're in simplex in your neighborhood. and Houston was right. I felt like a big old dummy. Because I'm trying to talk to people on the repeater and they're not there.
So the workaround is you have, in our case, you have the North Georgia GMRS repeaters programmed with the receive tone, so that when you're trying to use the network and hear the repeaters, that tone filters out the neighborhood kids on their bikes or the Chick-fil-A or the doctor's office. But then you also, in your radio, have those simplex frequencies that if you do want to hear that, or if you want to talk back to the kids or whatever it is that you want to do, you've got the same frequency, call it GMRS 16, that is open with no tones.
Right, and you can create a scan group in most radios, and you can scan the simplex and the repeater channels that you choose to, and then if you hear some audio, take a look at your radio to see if that's one of the repeater channels or if that's one of your simplex channels in that scan group.
That's good.
And that can help you make that determination as to just what it is that you're hearing.
All right, last question for now. If it says in code and I'm using a private tone, does that mean that my traffic is encrypted and nobody else can hear me?
Absolutely not. So the first thing that you need to know in two-way radio is that there is no privacy. There is no privacy. There is no privacy.
None.
Even if you think you're encrypted, that encryption can be broken. There is no privacy in two-way radio. So, in case that's not clear, let me say it this way. In two-way radio, there is no privacy. None. So, the private line, is a joke because, you know, that was an early marketing scheme from, I believe, Motorola to allow for users to have a private line on their radio. Let me break. And while that does give a radio user an opportunity to separate his traffic from another group of users on the same frequency, therefore you have privacy from that group, you don't truly have any privacy. And anybody can listen in on your traffic and be able to hear what you're saying. So never say anything over the radio that is truly private in nature.
Never.
Be careful about giving out addresses, telephone numbers, driver's license numbers. Only give your social security numbers to people you absolutely trust. I'm just kidding. Don't do that ever on the radio. Ever on the radio. Because anybody can hear that. And many people, especially on a network like this, many people will hear that. It's surprising how many people monitor the network through the day and hear all the things that are going on throughout the workday, and then, you know, later you're monitoring and you can hear things that you were talking about, or you can hear things that, you know, it's pretty clear. Like, even like on Fridays when I monitor the radio whenever I can on Fridays, so many times I hear people talking about the stuff that those knuckleheads were talking about on Thursday night.
Yep.
And so even though they weren't checked in, they weren't part of the conversation tonight, people are out there listening, and because they can. And so there's no privacy in two-way radio. Now, encryption is something that we're not allowed to do in GMRS. So, and you're not really allowed to do that in amateur radio either.
No.
You can encode your signal in a couple of different ways. There's some digital modes that allow you to transmit things that are not strictly analog, but they're not really encrypted. They're just packeted or formatted in a different way. So, but in terms of encryption, if you want to be able to send coded, encrypted messages over a radio network, I think the only way you can legally do that is with a commercial license.
Yeah. You need an LMR license, and then you can do that.
Yeah. So, if anybody's giving you the idea that CTCSS tones or DCS tones are a form of encryption, that's not really true. And it's super easy with a lot of radios to be able to scan for tones. So if you want to talk simplex and you want to put a tone on your traffic to keep other people from hearing you, if somebody wants to hear you, they're going to. But if you go back to that Rody and Schwartz video, they give a really, really good explanation about how tones can be used to have multiple groups using the same frequency, and how they can stay separated. So, for instance, if you've got a group of people that are engaged in maybe parking lot traffic control, and you have another group of people that are engaged in managing the movement of people on foot, and both groups need to be able to have access to the radio, but we don't necessarily want them talking to each other because that might be confusing, but we want them to be able to use the same channel. You can do that by giving different groups different sets of tones. And while one group is using the radio, the receive light will show on the other group's radios, but they won't hear the audio. So you can have that separation that way. You can it's not private, but you can break those groups up so that they can have discrete conversations and not interfere with or interrupt one another. All right, let me break. Okay, and a little bit of housekeeping chat. There's been a lot of interference on the network lately, and we kind of wanted to bring light to some of what's going on. So, in the first place, when we hear people that are misbehaving on the radio, it's unfortunate, and there's just not a lot we can do to, because anybody can buy a radio, anybody can key up a radio. They don't necessarily have to be licensed or intelligent or useful human beings. They just exist, and they create trouble wherever they go. So whenever you have this kind of a thing going on, the worst thing you can do is talk about it.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that it's going on, or even just say that that, hey, you should knock that off, because that just gives food to these animals, and it makes them want to come back for more. When you feed a wild animal, it will keep coming back for more and more, and you just encourage it. So we would just ask that whenever this stuff is going on, that our users would do their best to ignore these troublemakers. And you know, karma is a thing, and sometimes we just, you know, as frustrating as it might be, sometimes we need to just let things happen, and things will get taken care of. So if you're experiencing that, I would encourage you to just do your best to ignore it, and pretend it's not even there. And, you know, if these people feel like they have to act that way, they can answer for that when the time comes. And we can just know that we've taken the high road, and we're not gonna let it bother us. So
well said. Well said.
All right. So with that, let's go to our roster. Where is the roster? Have you seen a roster?
It's over there on the thing, where on the thing.
All right.
That was very helpful, right?
Let's go to the roster and see if anybody has any questions or comments about DCS tones or CTCSS tones. If there's any questions that we can answer, and for those of you that are watching on YouTube, if you have any questions or comments, this would be a great place to throw that in. Mike will do his best to watch the chat and bring anything to the air that we need to talk about.
Well, of importance from the chat, speaking of which, I have confirmation that Dallas 20 and Dallas 21 did indeed find their way back
from the Briar Patch,
and they are no longer lost.
That's fantastic.
So they'll be hosting the Rabbit Hole Sunday.
What's our topic Sunday?
Food preservation, different ways to preserve food.
Fantastic. That's been a kind of a series lately.
Yes.
So that'll be more of that. You know, Lisa and David they're like, I don't want to say they're pioneers in that field, because I mean it's established stuff, but they go above and beyond in terms of working out all of the kinks, you know, practicing what they preach. They're very much engaged. Were you a part of any of the move when David and Lisa moved recently?
No, I wasn't.
I think probably a significant element of that was moving canned goods.
Yeah. I know her level of knowledge just, it's up here.
Yeah. And, you know, and then the freeze drying.
Yeah.
I've had some of their freeze dried treats, and it's just remarkable to me how you can put like a piece of fruit.
Yeah.
You can put a piece of fruit on your tongue, and if you chew it, it's crunchy and it has an interesting texture to it. But as it sits on your tongue and your saliva engages with that piece of freeze dried fruit, the flavor just explodes out of that piece of fruit. It's amazing how much flavor there is in what feels like a dried up little marshmallow.
Yeah, it's totally different. You're right, from like dehydrated strawberries or something.
Mm-hmm.
Those tend to get really hard and brittle and lack the flavor. The freeze-dried stuff that she does, though,
yeah, and the longer you
turns
leave
it up.
Yeah, and the longer you leave it on your tongue, the more it returns to, I don't want to say its original texture, but it kind of approaches that. And so, anyway, fascinating stuff. I definitely recommend you tune in on Tuesday night to hear more.
Or Sunday night.
What did I say?
You said Tuesday.
Yeah.
I recommend you tune in on Sunday.
Listen to Mike. don't listen to me at all. So.
But I also recommend that we break for just a moment. Fruit candy, she says, no preservatives.
Oh, that's the other thing, and that's an interesting thing that David and Lisa have brought to light. You know, there's all this talk with RFKJ about all the things that are in our foods.
Yes. And
the artificial flavorings and colorings and additives and preservatives and emulsifiers and demulsifiers and when you grab anything and you look at the ingredients, you can't pronounce. I can't even read most of this stuff. It's green on green, and they do that for a reason. They don't want you to read that.
Yeah.
They make it small print and hard to read, and it's done on purpose. And it's a full paragraph of ingredients, and it doesn't matter what food you pick up. That's the only thing I have in here.
Oh no, we got.
Well,
these.
there's not an ingredient list on the brownies.
Thank you, Julie. We're enjoying.
There's not an ingredient list for these, but the packaged foods that we buy now, the ingredients list is ridiculous. And when you prepare your own food and preserve your own food, you have control over the ingredients that are in that food.
I imagine Lisa will spend some time on talking about that on Sunday.
I think that's the most important thing, and having the ability to regulate, simple things like sodium.
Yeah, how much salt do you want in there?
So one of the things that I've learned, and I kind of learned this from my mom, all right? Watching my mom cook in the kitchen, she's got a pot of potatoes going, all right? And you put salt in there. The salt does two things. The salt enhances the flavor of the potatoes, right?
Yep.
Not really. But it also helps the water to boil, to help to cook, so that it brings the boiling temperature of the water down so that the water will boil more readily. And then that salt is infused in the potato. And so what really happens is you dump a bunch of salt in that pot, and the taste doesn't really change, not significantly. But if instead of salting the water in the pot, you wait and salt that food on the table, a little bit of salt imparts a tremendous amount of flavor, whereas a crap ton of salt in the pot hardly makes any difference. So by having a little bit of control over the amount of sodium and things like that we put into our food, we can have a big impact on the quality of our food.
Very good.
All right. What's our topic tonight? Tones. That's right. Okay.
Tonight is tones. Sunday is the food preservation.
Well, definitely join the conversation on Sunday. Gary says, please ID. WQIR 514 Atlanta 946. My name is Justin.
And this is WRWM 344. Blue Ridge 63. My name is Mike.
This is WSAL 368 Atlanta 263. My name is Rogers.
And this is WRUB 711 Atlanta 519, Hungary at the end of the table with all this food discussion.
Gary, can I pass you one of the brownies?
No, I'm good. I'm good right now.
Are you sure?
No, really, I'm no.
He still got that half that he didn't finish.
You could pass it. You really could pass it.
Okay, all right. Well, hold on. I'm going to take one first.
We're going to have a brownie break. Yeah.
Quick brownie break.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
We
Julie.
don't often have food in Studio Vanguard, so this is a little different.
It's a real treat.
We don't,
But,
and back to the Sunday night rabbit hole. I mean, you come away smarter from those nets. I mean, it's just a wealth of information that they have on that net. You come away hungry from that net,
oftentimes.
And then I came away with information on canning from one of the nets, and went to my wife, and she said, "I thought you were doing some radio stuff." So it totally threw her off that I came away with a canning education, thanks to the rabbit hole.
That's uncanny.
It is.
Oh, here we go.
Well, that's just another rabbit hole to go down.
It is. We should go back to PL tones, I think.
It's comedy hour in here.
That's right. Well, great job, David and Lisa, and definitely recommend that everyone tune in and check that out. And I need some more details from Lisa. I'm gonna have to get with her. They do live stream the rabbit hole,
Yes.
But I'm not sure quite how to find it. So I would just recommend you would just go to YouTube and search for rabbit hole.
Well,
And-
give me just a second, and I can probably pull that up because they are commenting as the rabbit hole in the chat right now. So let me see.
Oh, that's fantastic. So if we can find an easy way to search their live stream, you can tune into the live stream. What's cool about the live stream, I'm really glad that the rabbit hole is doing this now, is that these great conversations that they have become archive material. You can go back and listen to it or share that with somebody after the fact. So Gary, if you wanted your wife to be able to hear the context of that conversation about canning, You can pull up the YouTube live stream even after the fact and replay that at any time, and be able to share that conversation with anyone. So I think that's a powerful tool. I'm really glad that the Rabbit Hole is streaming now. Not so much for the live stream value, but for the archival purpose that comes with that. You know, kind of by accident, but I think there's a huge value in being able to capture these conversations and be able to go back and reference them. So, great stuff.
Rogers did find the Rabbit Hole YouTube channel. Tell them about that, Rogers.
Yeah, so if you go to youtube.com, type in the Rabbit Hole, and at the top she has Lisa Loomis. If you type in her name as well, that'll bring it right up.
So that's fantastic. That right there on our YouTube page shows their YouTube page, and can't recommend it enough. I'm very excited about that. Time to break. All right, so PL Tones, looks like first on our list is Atlanta 194 Scott in Atlanta. We don't have an in and out for you, Scott, so we're kind of hoping that you're there. And do you have any questions or comments for the net on the discussion of PL and CTCSS and DCS tones?
Hi, this is Scott, Atlanta 194. I do have a question. I wondered if it's possible to hear these tones with a device such as a software-defined radio or SDR, or if there's some other way that you could hear it when your normal radio is filtering this out. So I'll send it back to Net Control with this question.
Well, that's an interesting question. I would assume that with something like an SDR, you could hear the tone. You would probably have to dig into the settings in the SDR software to tell it not to filter. Probably most radios are filtering everything from, say, 300 hertz on down anyway, because there's really no... In two-way radio, your voice is really all we're trying to convey, and there's really no vocal information below 300 hertz that's useful in two-way radio. I mean, even if you've got a really, really deep voice, it's still not that deep. So it's pretty safe for a radio to run filters and filter all that stuff out. And that may happen by default even in an SDR radio. So you may have to go in and find those filters and turn them off in order to be able to hear those subaudible tones. Now, many of the handheld radios have an ability to scan for tones. So when you're doing that, when you're asking a radio to scan for tones, it's really it's looking at what would be filtered out, and probably still is filtered out, but it's just looking for whatever tone information might be there. So the receive portion of that radio is splitting off the audio that we hear with the subaudible tones that we don't hear, and then there's a processor that's looking at what frequency is coming in, and then it will generate an output based on whatever that frequency is, so that the radio can say, okay, well, this is what your tone is. And some radios will even let you kind of automatically program the tone that was heard.
Yes.
And just make it so. So now that tone is programmed. But as far as being able to hear that tone, once you've heard it once, you probably don't ever want to hear it again.
Yeah.
There's not interesting. It's just a continuous tone. And the digital coded squelch is, well, it's a sequence of bits. There's like a header, and then there's the tone itself, and then there's another portion of the packet that describes whether that tone is normal or inverted. I would have to go back to that chart again to tell you exactly how that's broken out, but I know that there's different components to that. So it's a sequence of ones and zeros, but based on where those ones and zeros are within the message, within that packet, determines what specifically the function of that bit is. And yeah, so there's really nothing to hear in the digital side of things, but it might be interesting to see the pattern of ones and zeros and to be able to decode those. I do that all the time in the work that I do with the railroad. I'm looking at the packet itself, the payload of that message, to see what the bits are, because we break that out into code function assignments for various functions within the equipment that we use. Let me break. So Scott, tell us a little bit about, when you're first figuring out how to talk in GMRS radio. How did you sort out the tones?
Okay, I guess you were asking me, and well, I found a video that explains the tones as basically just C tones and D tones, and realized that you can have a C tone and a D tone on the same frequency. But just to make it super simple, don't even worry about what they stand for, but just realize that you've got C tones and D tones, and the C tones will be a number or a number with a decimal point, and the D tones will be just a mix of numbers and letters, and you just set it up so that it matches the repeater that you're trying to hit. And realize that some radios let you set up C tones and D tones on the same frequency. You probably don't want to do that to hit only one repeater. But that's, I found that on YouTube. It seemed like it was helpful. Back to net control.
Very good. In my application, I was using a radio for quite a long time before I really even understood what the tone does and how it works. It was, when I was brand new in GMRS, I had a buddy hand me a radio that was already programmed. So I didn't need to know about the tones at that time. I just, which repeater. And at that time, the repeaters were all programmed by name in the radio, so I could just go to the name of the repeater. I didn't even have to know what the frequencies were. So if you've got a buddy that programs the radio for you, that's convenient, but it doesn't really give you the opportunity to learn how any of this works. And so you have to have an additional level of interest to go deeper down that rabbit hole and find out how the tones work and what they are. And then eventually you start writing articles about that stuff and have Julie read an episode of Julie's Tips. But it's not obvious from the beginning, especially if somebody has programmed a radio for you. Did you program your own radios when you started off in GMRS?
Yes, I did. But I was using chirp and I was using a Baofeng radio with chirp, and I needed 2 tones.
Yeah.
So.
And then you bought an Anytone and just handed it to Jeff.
I did. That's true. I did hand my very first Anytone to Jeff and said, "Call me when it's ready." And then I learned exactly what you said, that didn't give me the satisfaction of knowing how to do it myself. And I got another Anytone, and so that was the point where I needed to learn. And yeah, that's a whole different level of CPS.
So. And that's the thing that it's not real obvious the way that the tones work in a radio, and when you're brand new at this, that can be the challenge. Rogers, how did you figure it out your first time around?
My first time around was last year, when I first got started, and I just watched a few YouTube videos, as Scott said, recently called in here, and I just played around with it. My first time calling into the net, I didn't know if I was going to be heard or not, and you all heard me, and that's how I figured out that I did it right. But like you said, Mike, I got an Anytone radio recently, and at first I was like, whoa. And it took me a little while to figure it out. But once I got it going, I've got a simplex channel for my son now on this little Paw Patrol radio.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll get a picture. I'll get a picture. I'll pull a picture of that up. But he has a Paw Patrol little radio. He's 2 years old. But it works on the simplex FRS channel. So I got his name programmed in. So when he calls me, I'll see it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and there again, I mean, YouTube is our friend. That's where a lot of us are learning how to program our radios. Let me break. And so if you don't have a pal that you can just hand the radio to and say, program this for me, YouTube is your best bet. But a lot of us don't have, we stumble across GMRS radio and we don't necessarily have that that information ingrained. We try to make it as transparent as we can on our webpage. We publish our tones. We make that stuff as available as we know how to make it. I guess probably the next thing to do is put some links to some of those videos right there on that chart.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we may have to update our chart with things like that. But
oh, and I found the picture that
let's
I posted.
see this radio.
So as you can see, that's my Anytone, and I have Noah Simplex on there. His name is Noah, and yeah. So now I have fun programming the radios now, and
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's very cool. It's nice to have a radio that you can communicate with your kids with. And last week our conversation was about engaging friends and family, and that's the perfect way. There's no better way to get somebody interested in using a radio than by putting one in their hands. And oh no, I don't want that. I don't need that. Oh, what's this? Oh, how does this work? So put it in their hands, and that's the beauty of some of these inexpensive radios is we can afford to do that. Some of these Radioddity radios, you can buy a pair of them for under $50. So if you're going to give one away, or if you're going to use one at the lake,
and if I was in the water,
if you're going to go kayaking with a radio, take the Radioddity.
Yeah.
Because what's crazy is when it dries out, it works again. Not that I know.
I was going to say, there sounds like there's a story here somewhere.
About kayaking with the radio. I don't know anything about that.
Moving on.
All right. Thanks for that, Scott. With that, let's move on to Chattanooga 260 Colt in Dalton. Colt, do you have any comments for the net? And in particular, how did you figure out the CTCSS and DCS programming for the tones in your radio? Chattanooga 260 Colt, are you with us?
This is Chattanooga 260.
Colt, how did you figure out the CTCSS and the DCS tones when you first came to GMRS Radio?
Yeah, it's funny I was just having this. This is Chattanooga 260 WSTM 494 from downtown Dalton. When I was in college, I actually worked for local news. So I was a stat truck operator. So one of the requirements to be a stat truck operator at that time was to have your ham license. So I guess I had to learn all that in a test, and I had to take an FCC test for my StatCom license. So for me, I kind of came to GMRS in another realm, like as other gateway drugs, I guess you could say. So I kind of learned the CTCSS codes from the ham side, and then from the StatCom side, which is a whole different talk in conversation. But I'm also big into P25 and 800 megahertz stuff, and in the process of actually getting my own business license to set up a P25 repeater. So I don't know if that answers all your questions or not, but I come from a total different perspective than I do just the GMRS side. But that being said, the GMRS side is way more active, way more fun. The relationships are great, and I find it one of the more rewarding avenues of all the radio comps.
Oh, that's very true. And we often talk about in amateur radio we make contacts, but in GMRS radio we make relationships. And I found that to be very much the truth, and so many other people have as well. So great stuff. So Colt has a background in radio from his professional career, and also as an amateur has that exposure to how to program and how tones and stuff work. So many amateurs would be exposed to that from that level, and would have the support of their local amateur radio club and their peers to help sort all of that out. So that's one advantage that that somebody has when they come to GMRS from the amateur radio side. Some of us have gone the other way. So very often we find that GMRS radio is a gateway into things like amateur radio, and we encourage that and try to support that in any way that we can. And a lot of GMRS users have taken that leap and have gone on to become hams. Typically around between 40 and 50% of our membership are amateur radio operators. So the number's down just a little bit from what it has been historically. It's been running in a 40% range for the last couple of years. In the past it was higher, and I think it'll be higher because so many people here lately are getting their amateur license. Who here doesn't have their amateur license yet?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm currently at about a 72% right now. So
Okay.
I think another week or two, I should be good to go.
Do you have a date, test location in mind?
Not in mind. When I was talking to Dana 250, I think he said he took his online.
Okay.
So I may just go with the online option and just get it done.
You know, I kind of hope that you do, and I kind of hope that after you do that, you can come back and tell us about your experience, because I don't know anything about taking the test online. I've always taken my tests in person, and but I think that's something that has, you know, COVID obviously kicked that off into a much higher gear.
Oh, yeah.
But it was coming anyway. But I think that is an important option going forward to kind of activate more hams and get more amateurs in the ranks there. So that's interesting. I'd be curious to see what the result of all of this. So you think in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, and I wanted to just show up on the Friday night at 9 amateur challenge Simplex. So I wasn't gonna announce anything. I'm just gonna show up one day.
But I just let the
call it
cat
out.
right out of the bag, didn't I?
I did.
Well, but they're not going to know which Friday night you're going to show up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw out my call sign.
Very good.
I
Very
like
good.
that.
I like it. Yeah, that would be great. So we'll look forward to hearing Rogers on one of the Friday night at 9 amateur episodes very soon. That starts at
7:30.
7:30.
7:30. So Friday night at 9 at 7:30.
That's right.
Excellent. All right, Colt, thank you for that. And with that, let's continue on. Next, we have Noonan 119 Jim in Noonan. Jim, how did you sort out the CTCSS and DCS tones when you first started in GMRS radio?
For starters, how does my Sandy Kenwood HD off the Noonan repeater sound?
Got a little bit of white noise in there with you, but if you talk a little bit loud, I think you'll modulate through the noise, and we'll have a good copy on you. We can make you out, but there's a lot of hash in there with you.
Sure, I consider myself certainly an amateur with limited knowledge, but and the tones are better. I didn't know what the subject was tonight. I really enjoyed listening to Julie's College of Radio Knowledge every week on that, and even the tones tonight. And that's all I have on tones, and I had a couple questions on the picnic if you want me to talk about it now.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead with your questions.
Okay, on the email I mentioned something about Bisky Mountain, and I think I was thinking it was Sassafras Mountain, if that makes any difference. And then my wife was concerned with a parking location is it just at the little fire station there? And is the actual picnic location at the fire station there, or up at Eagle's Nest, or where's that?
Very good. So, Bisky Mountain, Sassafras Mountain, Eagle's Rest. I think all of that is generally descriptive of more or less the same place. I think the best way to navigate is to plug in 2996 Monument Road, Jasper, Georgia. If you plug that into your GPS, 29 96 Monument Road. That will get you to the firehouse. But before you turn into the firehouse, we'll have some police officers there that will help direct you for parking. So we have a parking area that is right adjacent to the firehouse, and then we have I don't know if it's golf cart or it's side-by-side hayride. We have something that will get people from the parking area to the repeater site. And if you choose to walk, it's really not very far. It's just a few hundred yards from the parking area to the repeater site. But there is transportation available if you'd like to take a ride over to that site. Now, once you're on site, and if you have any mobility issues, if handicap issues, if you need to unload a wheelchair, walker, anything of that nature, there will be some parking right there at the repeater site. But for the most of us, we'll be parking over on the other side of the fire station. There is no parking at the fire station because that is an active fire station. And if they get called for service, we want to be sure we're not in the way. It's a volunteer fire station, so the volunteers have to be able to park their vehicles and then get the apparatus out and be able to get out and operate. So we can't be on the fire department grounds at all because we don't want to interfere with any operations that they have. So we'll have people there that will direct you where to go to park, and then we'll provide shuttle service from the parking lot to the repeater site.
So if you're watching on the YouTube channel right now, the repeater site where the picnic will primarily be taking place, where we'll gather, is that building there at the very top of the clearing. Don't park there. Don't park to the at the fire station directly below that. That's the area that Justin's indicating that we need to keep clear. But that's where the activities will happen, is there at the top.
And if you're looking at that image, just beyond the fire station, there's a bit of a driveway you can see. It will be well marked, and we'll have people there to help direct how to get into that parking area, and we'll have people, specifically directing the parking so that we can get. We should be able to get 100 cars in that area pretty easily. So just follow the directions, and then we'll have some transportation to help you get you and your lawn chairs, things of that nature, over to the other site. There's a trail between the two sites, and you can almost make it out in the picture. In the bottom left of the picture, you can kind of see where that trailhead heads out into the woods, and it makes a bit of an arc up to, and you can see in the top left where that trailhead kind of opens up into the back side of the flagship site. That green roof is the building for our flagship repeater location, and you can see the tower, 191 feet of tower coming up beside that building with our antennas at the top. There are 7 radios, I believe, on that tower.
That's probably about right, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a pretty active site.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to see all those radios when you come and tour the site. Let me break.
That was perfect timing on that break.
And then also Vanguard will be there. We haven't really talked about that, but Vanguard is heading up that way. Vanguard will be kind of mostly operational. We won't be able to live stream out of it because we won't have enough bandwidth to be able to do that. But we'll have things set up in Vanguard almost just like they are tonight, and you can see how things are configured for our nets. And I don't know, maybe we'll even put on a little bit of a demonstration. But you can come and tour Vanguard, see how this is set up in the environment that we operate in on Thursday nights. Any other questions?
No, wonderful information. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you all there, and back to net control. Thanks.
All right, Jim, this is the quiz part. What do you have to bring when you come on Saturday?
Lawn chairs, umbrellas, my hat, sun lotion, bug spray, binoculars, comfortable shoes, and a good attitude.
That was a great answer.
That's
That
impressive.
was the best answer. Yes, perfect. So yeah,
better
all
than
of
whatever
the
you and
above.
I were going to say.
That's right. That's right. You got the list down, so you'll be well prepared. And yeah, you bring up a great point, the binoculars, because when we're done at Flagship, there's a location called the Eagle's Rest, and Eagle's Rest it's a Boy Scout installation. And if you go there, it's just right there at the end of Monument Drive. So you come out of Flagship, and instead of going left to go home, you go right, and you take that all the way to the end. There's a parking area. Park your car. You can hike out, and it's not far. It's under 100 yards. And there's 3, possibly 4 observation platforms that you can go out to, get up on the deck, and you can look out, and you can see for miles. It's an incredible vista, and there are 3 or 4 of those. So you can see to the north, you can see to the west, you can see to the southwest. Just amazing views. If you've ever been to the back porch at Amicalola Falls, and been able to look out over the valley and be able to see the mountains beyond, it's very similar to that, but the vista is bigger. You can see farther because that valley extends out so far before there's anything that comes up high enough to block. So it's amazing. Every time Julie and I go, it's hazy and overcast, but it won't be like that on Saturday because Julie and I will not be at the Eagle's Rest.
That's how you know it'll be clear day.
It'll be
Sunny.
a perfect day.
Yeah.
So bring the binoculars. That's a great idea.
You might even be able to see Atlanta 250's house perched high atop Mount Olympus.
Does it with the red light flashing on the top of his tower?
That's the one.
Perfect. All right.
That's the one.
All right. Well, good stuff, Jim. Look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Next on the list, we have Atlanta 403. Bobby in Cleveland. Bobby, what are you bringing on Saturday?
I'm bringing me, myself, and my parking vest because I'm on parking duty with Chuck, and probably a cooler and a seat to sit down in. And yeah, what else should I bring?
Well, if it's going to be you and yourself, you probably should bring 2 chairs. That's what I'm thinking.
You'll need a name tag for you, and you'll need a name tag for yourself.
Don't worry about the name tags. I'll make up some name tags for you.
Oh boy,
that'll work out just fine. Bobby, tell us about CTCSS and DCS tones. How did you figure that out when you first came to GMRS Radio?
Especially on Nikon.
Well, I learned about that stuff years and years ago before I even came to GMRS. My dad taught me all about that, and little history tidbit there about Motorola coming up with it. And originally you didn't program your radio for it. You put a little module in, and that had the CTCSS tone. It was on like a little module that had like a vibrating copper reed in it. That's how the original radios got the tone, and yeah, it was kind of like replacing the crystals on the old CB radios to get different frequencies. But that's how they did it then. So I was familiar with CTCSS. I just wasn't too familiar with DCS, and I learned more about that once I got up here to GMRS, and figured it out from there. It was kind of easy.
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing about CTCSS tones. Once you understand it, then it makes perfect sense, and it's easy to comprehend how it works and what it does. But until then, it's just smoke and magic. It's just not something that. So there's that point at which people either know it and understand it, or they're still trying to figure it out. It's not all that complicated, really. But it's one of those things that if you don't know, you just don't know. And it's not the easiest concept in the world to explain to a new person. So if you're just out there doing research on the internet, YouTube is going to be your best friend because they'll show you. You can learn what the tones are and how they work, and you can learn just how do I program my radio.
Well, I'll add to that. One thing that the radio industry writ large doesn't do well is standardizing the language and the menus of what they call these tones, or how you activate the tones in your programming, whether it's perch or another CPS
Chirp.
platform. Chirp, thank you. Where did I get perch?
That's kind of fishy.
But so earlier I mentioned that in some softwares you'll see them as encode and decode. In others you'll see them as send and receive, or in and out. And I don't know why there's not a standard that everybody can agree to, because they mean the same thing.
They do, and it's unfortunate that there's not a standard, because I think that's a big source of confusion for a lot of people. If you're looking at a Motorola, it's called one thing, and if you're looking at a Kenwood, it's called something else. And I don't know.
Any tone is something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's probably not even a manual for an ICOM. I'm not sure. I've never seen one. But
can they use tones for the receive?
I would think so, because they are really good at monitoring.
That's right.
But the point being that, like you say, there's no good standard as to how the tones are identified in the manual or in the software, and so that contributes to the confusion. So when somebody is talking about their brand of radio, their preferred brand, that information doesn't automatically apply to other brands, and in some cases you have brands that are very good at marketing their radios, but their list of available tones is incomplete, and it has to be cross-referenced through a table. So
like a master chart.
Yeah. And rather than just identify a tone as what that frequency is, like most manufacturers do in their manual, some manufacturers want to identify a tone as a coded number. Mm-hmm. And so you have to have the magic decoder page out of the manual in order to be able to cross-reference that to our page. And that's just another level of confusion. And it's unfortunate that we don't have something that is very, very standard.
Yeah.
So as radio people, when you look at our web page and our table of frequencies and tones for our repeaters, we break them out as frequencies because there are only eight repeater pairs. And how many repeaters do we have? About 24
or 5. So
in that 24 repeaters, we have to use the same frequencies in a couple of cases, and we can do that because we can set different tones on the various repeaters that are sharing a frequency. And most of the time that works out okay. I understand there's some issues between Buckhead and is it Fort Mountain?
Where they share the same tone?
No, it's that if you're at a high elevation up around Jasper and you can hear Buckhead, you can also hear Fort Mountain. And even though they're on different tones, they're still intermodulating. Yeah. And so that's let's break. So that's a challenge in and of itself to kind of sort out. I'm not sure what we do about the intermod when you can hear them both because of your elevation. So maybe you just need to stick to flagship. But in any case, most of the times you can use a tone to filter out that other radio.
That's you just made me think about that. That's what they really should call it. Is filter, because that's effectively its purpose. You either want to filter for that traffic, like in the case of listening to a repeater, or you want to filter everything else out.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of doing both.
Right.
You're filtering for the traffic that you do want to hear, and you're blocking everything else that you have. And it's being done with the squelch function. All right. So in a typical, like if we go back to CB radio, the CB has the squelch knob, just like just like most radios do. What does the squelch do? All right, so that is an adjustment that sets the point at which your signal to noise ratio will open or close the squelch. So once the signal becomes strong enough, based on how your squelch is set, once that signal becomes strong enough, it will open up that receive so you hear everything. And if you set the squelch very, very low, you'll hear the static most of the time, along with whatever signal might be there. And if you turn that squelch up a little bit, you can filter out a lot of that static so that only carrier signals come through that are carrying the audio that you want to hear. CTCSS takes that a step farther and says, okay, not only do you have to have a threshold value of your audible squelch, but it also has to have this extra component, which is a tone or a DCS code. And if you meet those two criteria, signal to noise ratio of whatever value you've determined plus the inclusion of that coded message or tone, then it will open the squelch. So if you have a radio that's hearing a great RSSI value, signal to noise ratio, that signal's coming in super strong and clear, but it does not have that tone, then your radio doesn't open the squelch because those two criteria are not met. That may be a perfectly readable signal, but it's not one that we want to hear, so it's blocked out from us. And
like the case of the kids in the neighborhood with the, bubble pack FRS radios that might be on the same frequency.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Or they're fighting over, who gets to play with what toy, or it's those conversations are interesting to listen to sometimes, but they're a little bit voyeuristic, and you can't really engage in kids in the neighborhood without mom and dad maybe getting upset about, what are you doing on my kid's radio?
Yeah.
So, and you're dealing with people that aren't necessarily radio knowledgeable, and so you can give them a bad taste about what we do inadvertently pretty easily. So we should just stay out of that. Did you say we need a break? So that's the thing. All right, Bobby, did you have anything to add?
Not really. You pretty much covered it all, and I'm just pretty pumped up and psyched to see everybody up there on the mountain on Saturday. It should be a good deal.
All right.
Looking forward to seeing you, Bobby.
Bobby will be helping out with parking. He's going to have his bright yellow vest on so that he doesn't become a speed bump.
Hopefully he prevents Chuck from becoming a speed bump as well. They got to look out for each other.
Yeah. I think they'll be a good team. With that, let's go to Atlanta 250, Dana, high atop Mount Olympus. You're going to be busy on the radio this week. You're busy tonight on the radio. You're going to be busy tomorrow night on the radio, and you're going to be busy Saturday on the radio. You're probably going to need some hot honey and maybe a little lemon juice to keep that throat cooled down. All that radio traffic, Dana. And don't use that tone with me.
Oh, gosh, I've been laughing all night long at you guys. First of all, as I always do, Justin, Mike, Gary, and Rogers, you guys are simply great tonight. This is one of the best nets in a long time. And Rogers, just a quick little note. You practiced, you're doing hamstudy.org, I'm guessing, and you're practicing on that. When you take the test online, it's much more of a comfortable transition versus going into a building and everything else. It's almost like you're still studying, but you're actually taking the test. Let me break. And the flow, I took mine out of a hand club out of, I believe it was Louisiana, CVEC. And, it was just the most, it was the best flow you could possibly imagine. I mean, it was everything was over and done with in 20 minutes, and graded, and your paperwork and everything was done. So I can't say enough about it. Let me break. And to answer you, Justin, yes, myself and my faithful compadre in crime, Gainesville 5'8", Jonathan Puckett, the great-grandson of Gary Puckett in the Union Gap. That'll never die. Yeah, we're going to be doing somewhat of a morning show, directed net on the Monument repeater starting at 10 o'clock. Ending right around the 1:30 mark, or, you know, when everybody starts, well, they don't need a net anymore. Let me break. But hopefully we're going to, in the beginning of almost like your favorite FM radio morning show that you listen to on the way to work. And then Jonathan is going to go out and act as a roving reporter, and get a few of you, you know, on the microphone, and maybe Rogers will tag along and film it too. So that would be really, really good to see. But yes, I will be busy tonight, tomorrow night, and Saturday. So, and I already have, tomorrow I go shopping, Hall's Lemon Mentholyptus cough drops on my shopping list. That being said, I don't have much to say about PL tones except for, let me break. You know, at first, I think the big thing is when you get your first radio, especially if it's a more expensive model, that you've got to get over the fear of programming it yourself. And I was lucky. I had a couple of people, Atlanta 256, Chuck being one of them, who showed me a lot about especially the Kenwood software for the 8180s. And, you know, I picked it up, and from that point on, you know, you make a code plug and you program your radio, and, you know, if you use a code plug, you don't have to worry about setting the PL tones because it's all right there. And that being said, I think I'll turn it back over to you guys. Great job tonight, really.
Oh, very good. And, you know, there's probably a handful of people listening tonight that have no idea what a code plug is or what that even refers to. So basically, in a nutshell, that would be a configuration file that you can upload to a radio that will tell that radio how to configure its preset channels. So you can download the configuration file out of someone's radio and upload that same file into another radio, and essentially you end up with a clone of the first radio. That configuration file or that code plug will tell the radio what frequencies and what tones to use on those frequencies, what those offsets need to be. All of the things that it takes to program a radio can be captured in a code plug, and that code plug can be shared with a number of radios. If you have a buddy who has a code plug that he uses all the time, and you put that code plug in your radio, then when you have questions about how to operate the radio, your buddy is the best source of information because his radio is programmed the same way. He can tell you what the various functions and operations are. So,
and if you're watching the YouTube stream, you'll see where we list the code plugs that we have available. And there's a long list of available code plugs.
And these are all curated and put together by our members for themselves and for each other. So they're in the files section of our Facebook page. And if you go into that section, you'll see, I don't even know, dozens of different code plugs that have been created at different points. I would say be careful of some that are, you know, more than a year or so old or 6 months old. They may not have the full list. That doesn't mean they're not usable, but you know, if you grab one from January of last year, it's of course not going to have the Buckhead repeater and the Monument repeater and a couple others. But man, what a good resource for the cost of free.
And
Well,
go ahead.
And once you've got those code plugs opened up in your programming software, it's not that big a deal to go ahead and add in a few more. So if the Monument is missing, go ahead and open up our web page and find the information for Monument and just plug that in. If you're missing Peachtree DeKalb, you're missing Buckhead, or if you're missing any of the others, if you're missing Fort Mountain, if you're, some of my radios, many of my radios have been programmed quite some time ago, and don't include a lot of the repeaters that we've installed, lately. So I've got several radios that need to have updated code plugs put in. So it's not hard to do. It's just the time that it takes to take that radio out of service and program it. So
and
bring it with you on Saturday.
And that's why I when I upload it, if you look, the latest one is the Anytone 878 code plug. I purposefully waited to upload that until the Buckhead repeater was up, so that way we had the most up to date code plug for that. But shout out to Jeff as well. I watched his YouTube video that's on our channel, getting prepared for that, and then I just made it happen.
Well, and the beauty of using a code plug that's already been written is that now we have standardization between our radios, and we can help each other out if we have trouble. Let's break. So that can be a powerful asset in terms of if somebody's having some difficulty, getting some help from a peer and being able to get past whatever that issue might be. All right. Dana, did you have anything else you needed to share before we move on?
Well, the only thing I wanted to say is after you get over that fear of programming your own radio, you actually make your own code plug from that point on. You save the file to your computer, and then that way if anything happens down the road to your radio, you got your complete backup as far as the way your radio was last programmed. Let me break. Also, I wanted to say that, if you do this process and you're over the fear, you're looking, you're writing, put it this way, you're reading your radio, you're making the change, you're writing back to the radio, and next thing you know, the most difficult thing to program your radio is finding that programming chord amidst 12 other programming chords that you will get, and that's the longest part, because once you find it, you're in and out of the radio in light speed, and that is it, I promise.
Oh yeah. Well, in the process of moving from the original Studio B to the bedroom Studio B to Vanguard to in the process of constructing the permanent Studio B, I've got everything is in a box somewhere, and somewhere I've got a box full of programming cables, and that's been part of my challenge is I've not located that box of cables, so I don't know. I might have to send my Anytone up to your place.
I was going to say your programming apparatus are on Mount Waleski. You just that's your solution.
Yeah, that is the easy button. But then I still don't know how to program my own radios. But I know how to program the radios. That's not really the problem. It's just a matter of breaking everything out, finding those cables, taking the time to sit down with a code plug on top of everything else that goes on around here. So Mount Waleski is probably the easy button. All right, thank you, Dana, and look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Yeah, and if you haven't met Dana or any of the crew, this would be a great opportunity to put a face with the voice that you hear, and shake a hand and have a little bit of fellowship, along with a tasty meal. And so come see us at Flagship on Saturday. Be sure and RSVP at. What is that? What is that page?
No looking. You got to remember it.
I'm not going to remember.
We've said it like 12 times.
Yeah, it's NGGMRS events @gmail.com. RSVP the names, first and last name, of everybody that's in your group. Include TAC numbers if they have them, and yeah, do that. Thank you, Dana. With that, we're going to continue on to McDonough 22. Tim in Stockbridge. Tim, do you have any comments for the net? And how did you figure out your CTCSS tones when you first became a GMRS user?
Well, good evening there, Justin, and all your net controllers up there and everyone on the net. Yeah, when I first came aboard, I guess it's about 7 years ago now, maybe going on 8. I'm not sure exactly, but when I first came on board, I didn't know anything about PL tones or any kind of tones like that. I mean, I had seen those tones on my little bubble pack radios and everything, but I hardly ever messed with those. And my main experience had been with CB radio way back in the day, so I didn't know anything about repeaters or any of that. I was pretty much dumb as a rock, so it took me a while to understand all that. I was overthinking everything, and I got a lot of help on the Facebook page and through people, you know, that helped me get my radios programmed and stuff like that. But I originally heard the net meeting on one of my little bubble pack radios. I just happened to be tuned to channel 22, and as you know, you can hear the net without any PL tones programmed into your radio, so that was a little bit confusing. I said, well, if I heard it, you know, without any tones, why do I need tones, you know? But of course, I had to find out that you need the tones to open the repeater up. Let me break. So anyway, it was kind of a long, arduous process with me back and forth asking questions on Facebook, and a couple of people there. Tim Cunningham was one, and a couple of other people helped me quite a bit get up and going. But that's kind of the way I learned. And you know, my first radio was a BTEC radio that handheld that I used for over a year. So all I had to do was learn to put the tones in that. Once I got that down, you know, I didn't even use any software. I just put the tones in from the face of the radio there. And my first mobile radio was a Kenwood that I bought from Gary, which of course he programmed it for me. Let me break. My main comment for tonight was, as you mentioned earlier, there are some radios out there that do not have all the PL tones in them. And I don't know which ones they are except for one, and that would be the Midland mobile radios, the MXT line of Midland radios. And I've seen so many people come on board North Georgia GMRS as a new user, and because of the Midland name is so well known, they go out there and snatch up the first radio, you know, that they think will be a good radio. Well, I've heard of Midland all my life, so it's going to be good. And they don't understand that out of the 50 CTCSS tones that are available on most radios, probably 99% of the radios out there that we all use, Midland only has 38 of those tones. So there's a lot of tones missing in the Midland radio, and why they do that, I don't know. But I just want to encourage everybody to, you know, check out all the information before you go out and spend a lot of money on a radio. And for what a 50-watt Midland costs, you can get a really nice radio from Hobbit Communications with a 3-year guarantee, with all the things already pre-programmed into it, got all the tones and everything. So before if you're looking for a radio out there, if you're new, you know, you'd be a lot better off spending your money on a Kenwood than buying a radio that doesn't have all the features that you're really going to need into it. So I just wanted to put that out there, and hopefully it will help some of the new guys that are coming on board, and gals, hopefully, understand, you know, make a little bit better buying purchase choices there. So that's McDonough 22, back to net control.
Well, Tim, I don't know that I could have said a lot of that better myself. You hit a lot of the key points there, and yeah, we do wonder why those particular brand of radio are shorted when it comes to compatibility with CTCSS and DCS tones. 38, as you mentioned, is a bit short of all of the available tones, and I'm not. It's been a little while, I'll admit. I'm not sure the specifics, but I think it's one of the East machines. Maybe it's Lula or Jersey. There's a couple on our network specifically that with the tones we've had to implement for those repeaters based on a variety of factors, that particular brand of radio is not able to get in, and that's a shame. It's a real shame for our users that are in those areas and might have purchased one of those radios. I loved your point that, for the money, if you're going to outlay, $400 to $500 on one of those, sure enough, it's a good brand. It's been around long enough. I've not owned one, but I remember using a Midland CB radio in the 90s, and I know that name well. But you'd be better off buying, one of the Kenwoods that you mentioned for very much the same money. Not having those issues, having access to all the different repeaters on our network, and not being short any tones, and not having to use that annoying lookup table where it says, 67 hertz is 1 and 69.3 is 2, and you got to do that work every time. I've not understood that either. Maybe it's just to keep it simple. I don't know.
For the genius in marketing that Midland has been a part of, they do a great job of marketing their radios.
Totally.
And so people are very well aware of them. It is mind-boggling why the table, why they don't include all of the 50 official CTCSS tones. I don't know if their DCS tones are, if that's a complete table or if it's not.
Yeah.
But it's just baffling that there would be that missing. So, for the longest time we said, spend your money somewhere else because those radios aren't really. But the thing is, they're relatively good radios.
Yeah,
right?
They're not
so
bad.
As a consumer radio, it's probably one of the better radios that you can get. Not quite a commercial radio, but it's really. If you're looking at a Midland or a Woshi radio, I would sooner you buy the Midland. But at the same time, when you get into a commercial radio, you don't have any of these concerns with trying to sort out the tables between the tones and what the brand calls them. You're not missing anything. You've got
Right.
the full complement available. And,
that way, if you're out, doing outdoor activities, you're on a road trip, you're hiking, whatever it is that you use radios for in your practical application, and your friend is, says I'm on channel 16 with a tone of 141.3, you're not having to pull out the owner's manual to figure out what is 141.3.
Right. You can just plug it in because it is what it is.
Oh, that's the equivalent of 37 or whatever the number is. Forget all that.
But at the same time, it is challenging to program a commercial radio in the field, unless you get your laptop handy.
Or unless you come Saturday, where we'll be in a field, and you'll be able to get your commercial radio programmed.
Well, let's do that.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's break also. Well, Tim, thanks a bunch. Appreciate it and enjoyed your comments tonight. Did you have anything else before we move on?
This has been dumbass questions by dumbass answers. Back to net control.
Go ahead.
All right, Tim. Sounds like we've got somebody out there that doesn't know how to behave in public. Might be time to go have your mama change your diaper because you are definitely full of it. So be careful what you say on the air. It is recorded, and we have a pretty good idea where you're at. So yeah, just keep it up if you want to. That would be okay too. Where are we at, Mike? Do we have?
We've got that check-in that sounded like somebody maybe was calling out for somebody else. I got the CW7 part, but I don't know.
All right, let's see if we can find a CW7. And CW7, were you actually checking in, or did we just hear something that we didn't quite get?
Dumbass answers by dumbass dumbass questions by dumbass Jimmers. Tune in next week.
CWS7, you want to try that again?
How about 184 WSAC 278, Brian and Marietta, checking in and checking out?
I didn't hear the first part of that. That was covered up. Brian and Marietta.
All right, Brian and Marietta. We didn't get the full check-in there. Can you come back with your TAC number?
Atlanta 184.
184. Thank you.
All right, Brian, we've got you in there. I guess that's what we're going to do at this point. Before we do, let me go ahead and acknowledge some of these later YouTube check-ins. We've got WSHS 238 Michael in Phoenix City, Alabama. We've got Atlanta 95 Lester in LOJ. Chattanooga 139 Robert in Ringgold. Guest check-in from WRZY 312 Ron in Locust Grove. We've got Atlanta 355 Damon in Canton. And another guest, WRWZ 961 Edwin in Rochester, New York. And our last check-in that we heard was Atlanta 184 Brian and Marietta in and out. At this time, we're going to continue with any late check-ins, any questions or comments. The floor is open. Net control standing by. Watch out, the floor is open. Don't fall in.
This is WRBG 415 Atlanta 11 late check-in. John and Ken. Check me in and out.
Is that all we got?
Might be.
Take a look at your YouTube comments and see if there's anything we need to bring to the air.
I haven't seen a lot.
All right, we heard Atlanta 11 John in Canton is in and out, and that's all we heard. So that is the end of the roster. I think it's time to call it. What do you think?
I think it is that time.
Anything from the YouTube community that needs to chime in?
Not tonight. Not tonight. There was just a little bit of conversation about the picnic. Obviously, we're excited for that this weekend. That's the big happening.
When's the picnic?
This Saturday, April 26th, at the flagship repeater site on Monument Road. You can show up at 11 or later. Don't show up prior to 11.
What should we bring?
Yourself, your family, bug spray. See, you put me on the spot, and I don't have the list the way that who was it earlier? Scott, I think it was. It was either Scott or Jim. Just bam, bam, bam. But bug spray, sunscreen if you need it. I'm gonna bring a chair.
A chair's a good
idea. So I have
idea.
a place to sit.
Yeah.
If you're sun sensitive, might not hurt to have a canopy or something that you can take a little shade from. That's about it.
Bug spray, sunscreen, binoculars.
That was it. Yeah.
There's wildlife in the area. You may see some wildlife on the drive up. I have several times. Depending on which way you come from. If you come from the Jasper area, there's a couple of pull-offs, some scenic overlooks.
Oh yeah.
And if it's your first time in the area, I recommend you pull off and spend a few minutes. The vistas are amazing. And after the picnic, I recommend you head on up to the Eagles Rest and have a look there as well. Some fantastic views and an opportunity to experience nature in a very meaningful way. So
that big pull-off right before you get there that's got the huge fence and everything. Is it accurate to say you could probably, skies and clouds and all that permitting, probably see all the way to the Atlanta airport?
I don't know how far you can see, but Well, we've made contact with Sassafras.
Yeah.
From the cell phone parking lot at the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. So
Yeah.
the line of sight is certainly there.
If it's unobstructed on a clear day.
Yeah, I don't know how far. I've never really looked with binoculars. So if you're bringing binoculars or some sort of a telescope, might be fun to look through as well.
Maybe you could see the skyline of the city.
Yeah, you might be able to get the tail numbers on the Delta jets that are taking off. I don't know. Your binoculars are probably better than mine, but yeah.
All right. Well, Saturday's the big day. Looking forward to seeing folks then.
All right. Don't forget Hobbit Communications will be there. So if you're looking for a new radio, and we talked about some options, for the money that you might spend on a Midland radio or a Wouxun radio, for comparable money, you can come home with a very good NX commercial grade radio. These are radios that live a lifetime in heavy rugged service. Excuse me, let me break. And often come back. Excuse me, let me break. Sorry about that. Often these radios will come back out of commercial service and can go into service in the second life as GMRS radios. Here we have the opportunity to put them to work as GMRS radios first. Brand new out of the box Kenwood radios, 3-year warranty. Pricing is fantastic, especially when you compare it with some of the other commercially available radios, the Midlands, the Wouxuns, the Baofangs, the 50 Pro that just came out. Looks like a neat
I haven't
radio.
seen the new one.
It's a
is that the Tribander?
No, it's a GMRS radio, but it is Bluetooth programmable.
Oh, okay.
So that's interesting. That's something that, and I don't know. I hate using my phone as an interface.
Yeah.
To
so many things these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's just the way it is. But yeah, I'm very excited about Saturday and hope to see many of you there.
Well, our friend David leaves. We'll let him close it out. He makes a good point with a message he just sent. It says that mention if you see a bear, do not engage or feed the wildlife. That's a common message on the air tonight.
Yeah. Don't feed the
don't feed the
dirty,
wildlife.
animal.
That's right.
Bear.
That's right. Thank you, David, for that. I'll let you take it away.
All right, this concludes the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we had a total of
75 chickens.
That's a flocking lot of chickens.
Flock and a half.
All right, total of 75, you say?
75 is that's what it says.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the auditors say about that. Net control will now be returning the repeaters back to normal use. Everyone who signed in should sign out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, don't forget, comments on the YouTube channel help the channel to grow. It shows interactivity and it helps with the algorithm, whatever that means. But yeah, please go to the YouTube video and comment away. Next week, there will not be a North Georgia GMRS Net.
Oh, that's
Did you
right.
know that?
That's right.
We're going to take the week off. We're going to do some cleanup around here. The parking spot that Vanguard lives in needs a little bit of attention. So there'll be some maintenance work going on. There will be no net next week on Thursday night. I believe all the other nets are happening. There's a net happening tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
There's a net happening on Sunday. There's a net happening. Is it a week from Monday or is it Monday? It'll be Monday, won't it?
So I think it's a week for the first of the month.
Okay, so there's nets all over the place. We'll be back soon. We're just going to take 1 week off. And with that, thank you for allowing us to serve as your net control this evening. Good night, everyone. This is Atlanta 946 WQYR 514. My name is Justin.
And this is WRWM 344, Blue Ridge 63. My name is Mike.
And this is WSAL 368, Atlanta 263. My name is Rogers.
And this is WRUB 711, Atlanta 519. My name is Gary.
Good night, everyone. We are North Georgia GMRS Network.
And we are clear.